All right, let's go. Wholeness and balanced vibrations, everyone. We are here. Thank you so much for taking the time and the opportunity to tune in to something very special that we're going to be unveiling today. And this is, of course, the Secret Energy cryptocurrency or token AMA. That means Ask Me Anything. And some have already found out that Secret Energy is now jumping into the cryptocurrency space. And so many have been wondering kind of what are we going to do and how is that really going to line up? And today what I'm here to do is I'm here to give you some of the information around what we're developing. And I'm also here to really just dial in with you also about the current situation, the financial forecast, and what we're actually looking at in the world. And as always, real solutions for the situations that are presenting themselves. So give me just a quick second and I'm going to go ahead and line some things up. This probably would be a good time to grab any water, anything else that you need, and you'll be really today educated and entertained also in relation to getting more wisdom and knowledge about what you should be doing at this stage, especially in relation to your future and the future of finance. So just give us a quick moment. Okay, thank you again for your patience. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Also, this will be archived. So if any point today that you feel that you may have to dip out, then this will be, of course, available here for you on YouTube. If you want to share it with your friends, you can also share the channel with them. And actually, we have a runtime today of 1 hour. Like, I'm going to go through quite a bit, so I definitely need to get started. So I'm going to go ahead and check the chat from time to time just to make sure that we're broadcasting clear. But again, remember that we do have the archive. This is technology, though, so we can't count on it to perform well all the time. So I actually have a PowerPoint here today because, again, it's very precise what we're engaged in. And I'm going to go ahead and go through these slides so that way you can just, again, dial in, see what I'm seeing, especially in the space. Cryptocurrency has been something that I've definitely been exploring at least since 2017, early 2017. And so I've seen it all. Of course, I'm in those charts, you know, in many ways, I'm way up on them charts and things are down. So there's a lot that I've been observing about the space. And obviously, Secret Energy is a powerhouse. It's actually ecosystem. It's not just a social network. And so we progressively go towards things because we're really about sovereignty. And it just so happens that there's a few technologies that actually would benefit us in the future, especially when it comes to decentralization and, of course, the DAO, as far as the type of structures that you would want to be under, considering the upcoming impending financial situations and just the overall landscape of what we're now terming financial warfare. So here we go here. I'm just going to ride with you here on the side a little bit and just begin this process of explaining to you really what we've been doing for the last 12 years now. So right off, I would say the most valuable thing that we have is a community. And so many want to create a community and realize you can't do it in 3 months, even a year. Community is very sensitive. It's like a body. So if something gets hurt, even a little small fingernail or toe, then the whole body is aching. And so to create a real online tribe in a virtual engagement that is wholesome is difficult within itself. It's almost like mission impossible. But now we're actually here today to continue this mission impossible. We're doing impossible a few times, even a day. And so we're here again to actually really explore what we're going into next. Because we're a platform that's been developed for 12 years, I'm the founder and a developer. It's really like for us, what is the next layer? because we feel like personally we've reached layer 1 of our own personal platform and how it's operating as far as an ecosystem is concerned. And so we're looking at layer 2 and we're saying, well, what is it going to take for us to scale this and for us to get to the next level of our roadmap? And of course, cryptocurrency came into our minds for quite a few reasons, mainly 3. And I'm going to explain those reasons to you today, and I'm going to make sense of it. And there are also some that are in the audience that are looking at what I'm saying and listening to what I'm saying to learn more about this project, to make an educated decision whether they want to spend time or energy within something like this. And so that's what this is really designed for today, is to give you a lot of clarity on what brings us into the space and how we see it. So the first thing that I would say is that there's a phenomenon, and we've seen this since this began. For me, again, it began in early 2017. This was the ICO days, where you pretty much can line up a bunch of the new ICOs on the wall and throw a dart at them, and any of them that you actually landed on, you would invest in and make money. Now, whether or not you ever took those profits was something entirely different, but everything was going to the roof. It was actually my first time ever really seeing something where people were standing in line to give money, and the door was even being closed at times on receiving money. And so anyone that was around during that time knows that many of the ICOs launched with these caps, and they said, well, we're trying to raise 20 million, and they would hit 20 million in like a few minutes. And you would still be over there trying to get your gas and your weed prices and everything together, and then you would just see it's over. And then you would kind of look at your transaction, and then sad face emoji would happen because you know you missed out on this next huge thing. So everything was riding up, and the concept then is creating things that bring value into the blockchain. And that's where the speculation was. People were saying basically, well, he's creating the new FedEx of the blockchain. He's creating the new Uber of the blockchain. And there was imagination about how much is Uber really worth, or how much is FedEx worth? Oh, that's 50 billion. So if even 5% of that gets here, then this is the number that would actually be available. And so that was the drive, that was the craze. But even underneath all of that, really there was a core foundation of pioneers that brought this technology, knew it was going to go through all these phases, but ultimately to answer a problem that we would face in the future. It was a solution of a problem that we would face in the future, and maybe a problem that we didn't necessarily see, because if we're not spending our time looking into the future, then we can maybe miss it, that the use of a decentralized economy is extremely important in order to not destabilize your way of life, period. And so again, while there was lots of money being made, there was still this awareness that from the core members that this is the future and that this is going to be big. And despite the profits that can be made off this, the core fundamentals are the technology has been given to us, basically the Pirate Bay of money, if you want to put it that way, meaning that no one is shutting down Pirate Bay. It's impossible. So no one shuts down Bitcoin. It's impossible as long as the thing is still functioning. If Bitcoin shuts down, that meant so many other things were already shut down and wouldn't make it important in the first place. So that idea and that energy of bringing in a certain level of sovereignty is the first time in thousands of years that we've seen something like this. As metaphysicians, this is uniquely important for us because we know that our debt is actually what's being held over our head life after life after life, and controls your karmas and controls your path. And so when someone levies a certain debt on you or says you owe me X, it means that until you make good on that in certain ways, you owe that until you're absolved from it. Spiritual traditions are the same way. Financial systems are also the same way. And so we saw this as an opportunity to begin to open up a new path. But the first part of that path was who's bringing the water, who's bringing the fire, the electricity, etc. And so that was the first craze. And many are still in that state of mind. They're thinking about what they can bring new to the blockchain, or toilet paper for the blockchain. And investors are still thinking that that's ideal when most of it, as you know, is speculation. So let's return here and summarize what it is that I've placed here about just a statement. Ask not what you can do for the blockchain, but what it can do for you. This is what I believe is the next stage of this thing called blockchain. While so many may be focused about what they can bring in as a utility into the space, it's somewhat in a maddening way, as the masses have a tendency to do. When you're really just looking at what's going on, what's really needed is people who are going to come into the space and actually begin the process of the migration from this centralized aspect of life to something that is more respectable to your sovereignty and your privacy. But there needs to be some onboarding tools for that. And at this point, just like the onboarding tools for other complicated things that we deal with in life, they're not available. Even relationships, onboarding tools for relationships, or you even thinking about the last time you got into a relationship and all the criteria and lists that you need to check off before you were so attracted to the person? Of course not. So there's a lot of step-by-step processes that we still need to create in order to also really respect humanity and its growth. To be actual pioneers of those that are coming next by giving them the resources and the tools of what we've grown through and what we've experienced that has cost us in certain ways. And so our approach is not to come into the space acting like we're going to create something new. It's actually using the things in the space to graduate what it is that we're already doing and what we're already engaged in. And so for us, a Web3 VR metaverse is very possible and actually already in the works, but it's actually for something very specific, as I'm going to show you here in a moment. It's not the elephant gun of, hey, let's just open up this environment and no, nobody's going to be in there. You can go into these environments now that have 60, 70, even $100 million in investment and actually find no one inside of these rooms because you need a community. You have an ideal. You need a culture. And to create something like that, it doesn't matter how much money you have. Money can't create culture. Time does. Just like what you see in a Petri dish, it could be some very simple elements there, but just because you got a bunch of money doesn't mean you're going to make those elements grow. Time makes those elements grow. An environment and nourishment in that environment makes those elements grow. And that's what we're masters in. That's what we do. So NFT marketplace actually does make sense for us in relation to our creators and giving them the power to have their own digital assets. It doesn't make sense for us in some of the respects that it's being used now, but we also respect the onboarding process to any advanced technologies. I didn't get non-fungible at first at all either. But when I start realizing that just the whole act of restoring the value to our creators, the biggest resource in the world is human resource. All the jobs need it. The big corporations, they need humans. As much as they'll tell you they don't, that's to devalue you. Maybe you'll get the job. Oh, I hope I get the job. All right, we'll give you the job for $12 an hour. Okay. You see, so it's to devalue you because since the biggest resource is human resource, the next agenda for corporations is to get human resource as cheap as possible. And that's done by degrading a person or making them perceive that they have less value. So NFT and non-fungible is the root to uniqueness. It literally says there's only one of these and it's worth something. And I would hope that all of us are able to look in the mirror every day and say, there's only one of these. I know it's worth something, and know your own internal value, because if you let someone else try to tell you your value, they may try to get you for cheap. Also, a network token is beneficial for us because already having a completely gamified system that is continuously growing and rewarding for mindfulness, having our stuff on chain for governance and auditing makes sense for us to give more transparency and more fluidity in what we've already created and what's already been designed to continue to do amazing things. A virtual smart city. They're calling it Metaverse. We have visions of smart cities, physical ones in the future. It's the greatest conceptualization of the next stage. We are now beyond communities. But the beginning of many of these things are often a sheet of paper. Sometimes just a word processing document. And so I say a virtual city to be able to begin to create the framework for a global level of connection. So as I power through this very briefly, because again, I do have only an hour today to be with you, I want you to see the vision and understand why it is that we come at it from this standpoint based on the things that we've already been able to accomplish and the things that we already have. I'm also going to take a moment real quick to just dive into the chat, make sure that everything is in alignment here. Looks like things are good. No one's saying, hey, your mic's off. So we're going to keep going with it. And so right away, what I want to explain is, again, that Secret Energy has already pioneered a platform of excellence. And We've even done it one better, and we've made it aesthetically pleasing. Some of the technologies that are actually inside of Secret Energy, such as the virtual reality, the artificial intelligence, or what we call BAE, benevolent artificial intelligence, which cuts the time down of you finding the esoteric knowledge that you need to keep going on your mission. The approach of not being blog forward, meaning like CNN or any other website that has a blog, then every day it's come and check in on this news. And then it starts to make you have to ride trends where you need to talk about whatever is going on and spread that energy to your tribe. We have interest-based systems that when we find content that would be relevant and that has crossed that curation barrier, then we actually serve it to our tribe and actually keep a very sleek and very refined experience for our users. Also, that just being weathered in this, we are in a space amongst giants like Meta and Google. As a social network, you can imagine that having a niche social network these days doesn't mean that you're necessarily looking at the bottom line all the time about how much is it making. It's really something that you pioneer first, and it's one of those things that you say, if you build it, they will come. So we've been building for 12 years, and every time someone says, hey, I think this will be a good idea, because we are a runabout, meaning that we actually are not moving in like a gigantic monolithic form where when an idea comes out, it just gets suppressed. We've always had open ears. You can talk to us, you can get in touch with us, and we listen to what's being said. And if we hear it enough times, it's probably already in our pipeline to implement. So this is, for us, since 2009 to now 2022, many of the actions from radio to video, obviously, to pioneering products, research and development, an actual industry. So what I would say is what really separates Secret Energy from 90% of the projects that are actually on the blockchain is that we're already doing it. We already have a lot of things that we've deployed. We already have layer one. Where we're at now is that, do we do layer two? Is this the next stage of our growth? Or are we good with layer one? Because also when we look at what we've done, we are also impressed. And we would like you to also take a look at secretenergy.com and to really spend time there and get Enealogy actionables and start seeing what has been prepared there for you to advance your consciousness. And then maybe take a look at everything else and just even ask yourself, is there anything like this? I have to ask myself the question every single day. And why there are different varieties of it, I would say that Secret Energy has accomplished being unique within itself. So now let's just dive into the nitty gritty here, especially in relation to the whole financial aspect of things and how stuff is really going. Because when you first come in, especially into the cryptocurrency market, it doesn't even seem like that actually investing is a skill. It just seems like you put the money there and the money grows, and nothing can be more foolish. Obviously, many of us have learned that already, that this is a skill that takes you first mastering your emotions and learning how when something goes up, it's really time to think about whether you're going to be taking profits, and when something is going down, it's probably not the best time to actually get rid of it. And that is absolutely opposite to how we think every single day. And that's why the original candlesticks that's used on the charts actually came from what they say is probably the richest man in the world in China during the Silk Road times, noticing how people's emotions actually control the sentiments of the market, and actually developing candlesticks based on sentiments in the market and how people feel, not necessarily if something is performing well or not. And so as we see now, there is something in front of us since, again, financial warfare has begun. All of us have lived through at least the last 3 weeks of the situation that has sparked off in Europe and Russia. And it has been, even on this side of things, very debilitating for us to have Ukraine developers that are actually signed up with Russian freelance companies. It's like a split down the middle. Not to mention to just, again, see brothers fighting each other and sisters fighting each other, especially since this populace shares so much commonality genetically, is quite interesting, again, how the world does really need to realize the levels of unity. But that's another conversation. What we're specifically focusing on right now is the condition of the economy And as they say, symbolically, money printer go brrr, that all the printing and all the stimulus and all the pandemics and all the things that have happened have actually affected the economy. And there's a potential for us to actually be seeing a wave of things that we've never seen in our lifespan. So I trust that we will be clever enough to pull such a situation out of a tailspin. But as I always say, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war, meaning that you always should be prepared and hopefully you don't have to deal with any situation. So the current vista is about liquidity, meaning how much money do you have on hand or resources do you have on hand that are liquid that you can invest in the next big thing. Right now, the next big thing obviously is wheat, potash, and many of the other resource and commodity markets are booming. But if you're stuck on the top end of maybe even some type of tech stock or something that is valued at a tech stock and that's taking a hit, then you're just kind of stuck there without any liquidity and no money to invest. And this is why we feel like still one of the biggest parts of what has to be done in this space is proper education. And proper education should be at the forefront of involving any people that you care about in your community and getting involved in anything that may or could be used as some type of financial instrument. So that education is key because obviously if you don't have any assets, it's very interesting to see the world today and to not see the world understand that the things that you eventually pay for, not the things that you don't own, but the things that you eventually pay for, they are your assets. And your assets insulate you against situations that may occur in the world from time to time. And the reason why the assets have always been here is because the world is full of change. We have to learn to not only welcome it, but also be prepared for it. So how many assets do you own? And even if somebody said that they were going to sue you, would there be anything to actually sue you for? And in most cases, that's just not what's happening with this generation. And so we have a situation even with our sovereignty, because if we're not liquid and we don't have assets, then as far as a sovereign on the land, you would need to be in a position to begin to maneuver yourself towards such things so you can begin to actually acquire certain types of resources like land, things that you can eat, industry, things that you can create, water, things that you can drink, the things that you probably find right now that are the stuff that you really want versus maybe the facade that has actually been sold to us. So the big question that I've always had for the cryptocurrency space personally, as a hyper analyst, is what is the industry that regardless if in the field of this new technology, if there's no one that is actually producing resources, if we're only producing services, like what you'll find in most of our economy, our pay scale is structured around the services that we bring, not resources. And so a doctor, by the way, is a service. A computer engineer is a service. So no matter how much these people get paid, it's still a service versus a resource is something that you're pulling from one area that's physical and you're taking to another. So at the end of the day, you can see also that our generation is a little slim on the resources. And this is because some of the predecessors, which are still alive, have actually amassed most of the resources, the mining, the land, the railroads, the power companies, etc., all for themselves because they realize that that is the framework, that is the core of not only control, but that is the control of finance inside of any economy. And anything that comes after that is still dependent on that. So they have operated within the framework and created the framework. And what we have to begin to ask ourselves is, do we have an industry? So what I'm lining out here is actually the future of our industry, and then I'll show you the present. But the future of our industry is just the awareness again that we have now moved into an entirely different epoch. In fact, celebration to today, it is March the 22nd, 2022. The numbers are auspicious, but it's actually the point where Aries hits the top of the ecliptic. And what that means is this is officially for real the new year, or the new Anu, which is where we get our word annual from. But this actual cycle is not a year. We don't know how long it is. It could be 4,000, 26,000. It could be somewhere in that range, meaning the decisions that you're making right now are actually what affect you as far as energetically. It's the energy that you're marrying yourself to. And this, of course, is why Easter is around the corner. And there's these celebrations of Ash Wednesday and all these things that have been built into the religious structures around this time right now, because there is awareness that you have to choose the energy or make a marriage with the energetics that you're going to be with in this term. So do be aware of that as you're going through the rest of the day. To what you're doing right now is setting the pace for where you're going to be and where you're going to get during these next terms. So for us, when we look into the future, we already realize that the economy has always been based on the gods. And that's an entirely different recording. You can check it out. It's called Conscious Economics, where we go in and explain just through history how there's been some uncanny similarities between money and the god. And so we know that the future was coming, and we even gandered about what the name of the new money would be. And this was right around the time, actually a little bit before Ethereum came out. We did a course about this, and we talked about how the energy that is around the body will be discovered in this next era. And what that means is that people are going to start figuring out that there's an energetic field that's actually around their body, and what they do and the condition of that energetic field actually controls whether they can even regenerate, and also whether they can actually go into other vistas of their consciousness. So don't be surprised if within 10 years you begin to see products literally on your shelves about enhancing your aura and your vibratory field, because it is there. Science knows it's there, if that's your confirming method. And it is something that is yet to be explored. It is a new power. And because we know that this new power is now on the horizon since the advent of a great deal of metaphysical knowledge, especially in relation to the Taurus, we know that we are now on the borderline of actually breaching the stage where spirit tech, as we call it, or spiritual technologies are actually born. And so we've already began research and development into the fields such as metamaterials, tektites, which you would call meteorites, cymatic embedding, which is a frequency embedded within at a nanoscale, nanocircuitry, which is circuitry and transformers, and what you would say is scalar technologies that can generate fields, and also a foundry where we can begin to create these apparatuses to actually be utilized in the technological and spiritual technological development of others. And so that is the future of secret energy. So we're pretty far ahead when you look at the vista, but we're also very grounded into this current reality. So as of late, what we have been doing is, as we've opened up a massive partnership with anyone that joins the site as an affiliation, we've created products from scratch, and we've homegrown many of these products inside of our own facilities. And so at this stage, we have over 120 products, many of them rare and not able to be found anywhere else. And we continue to go in that direction because we also are aware that the industry that we're in, it has a valuation, and this is now under the term of the industry of mindfulness, but it has a valuation of $4.72 trillion. And $4.72 trillion is about 3 times what the entire cryptocurrency's market cap is right now. So if someone, again, wanted to do a quick risk analysis, you would have to understand that at some point the blockchain would need a church or would need a spiritual aspect of things, because it is in itself a city. So what we've been working on just on our side, or I always say funning, because, it's always work, work, work. What we've been working on and funding a bit with is that we started to see and study what is the social engagement like, and what should it be like, especially in a virtual experience. And what we came across is the awareness of gamification as being a conduit for recognition of users within a platform. So if you have thousands of members coming into your platform, how do we see that individual user, or how can that individual user be seen? And gamification, without elaborating on this too heavy, it checked all those boxes. Remember, the first person to actually introduce game theory won a Nobel Peace Prize. So why we're saying gamification, and that sounds like, oh, it's just a game, actually there's way more to it. And it actually has to do with the psychological subset of how we all want to be appreciated and seen. And sometimes we just need a notification that that is happening. And so when you begin to build gamification or actionable points, this is what creates that level of connection within your ecosystem. So at the end of the day, we don't actually see too many gamified platforms, but a good example of one is Duolingo. For those who are wanting to learn different languages, you can actually go into the Duolingo platform and you see that it's gamified. There's actually no intrinsic value within the token that they're actually using or the point system that they're using, just beside letting you understand that you're progressing and you get unlocked awards. This is still a huge adoption. That means that somewhere within all of us, there's still a huge kid that may like to play a few games, even if they're board games. But as we see things now, what we see is that with Secret Energy, we had to take it from scratch, because everything that we do, it has to serve the aspects of metaphysical growth. And so first and foremost, we were considering how can we begin to award for mindfulness? Because what gamification actually says, one of the key fundamentals is that everyone that you come across is worth something. They have a value. And if you can extend that value to them, once that you've determined what it is for you, if you can extend that value to them right away, then this would really get things going, because most people are not really giving these days. They're looking for what they can receive. And so when you give something, it kicks off the wheel of, okay, you gave me something. Now, especially if it has some level of value, I'm going to go and use it. So inside of Secret Energy, we determined that we should give every single person that comes into the platform 360 ohms. That is actually equivalent to $3.60. And what that does is it is a gesture like, hey, just for signing in, we're just associating this value to you right away. So even now, anyone who signs into the site will receive that. And there's actually what I call Easter eggs, or products that are actually inside the store that do cost that in itself. So this is a gesture from us saying, hey, let's continue with this process of this growth. And so gamification is, as you can see here on the screen, like looking at an entire map of a journey where you're rewarding at different steps in order to allow the being to continue to go on this progress. Now, because we've been doing this for 8 years, we're introducing another level of this, such as our own live stream feature where our creators can come in and do what they do, be creative, and actually receive the rewards that others have earned as a gift to them. And this means that even if a person cannot support you financially, they can even earn by doing certain things in the platform and then come back around with those tokens and just gift them right to you, just because they care and they want to see your growth in whatever it is that you're doing. We're looking at our content creators also beginning to use our protocols and bringing on more content creators and approving. When their content gets approved through our governance system, then they actually receive for that, rather than the current model that's in use where you create the content, and if a lot of people look at it, then you get paid for it. That's also Google's model. There's a few cryptocurrencies that operate that way, but we're thinking about something entirely different. And also staking, just really letting the community understand that value is created when we hold on to things. And if we could grow the value and create more value, even for adopters that are coming in from the public sector, this still allows us to be able to fortify something that would be, in every sense, something that would balance this in the future. And I do have to even be careful with the terminology. As you know, this field is almost like a minefield when it comes to the legalities, but rest assured that we've also incorporated the proper level of legal structure in order to go forward with this venture. So I wanted to mention again, our advent into the NFT space is because we are now rolling in a new aspect of Secret Energy. Well, it's not new, but it's something that's been in beta that we're now unfolding, which is the ability for mainly our soul coaches at this stage, which is a process that we take our ambassadors through to where they can get to a comfortable space within themselves to say that they know themselves enough just to be them. And then they're able to go to others that are looking for someone like that and give them the mentorship that is necessary. So our soul coaches are beginning to create courses. Courses are digital assets. And anything that's digital actually works well on the blockchain, especially in relation to automated payment systems and actually establishing contracts that are audited only by the visual user, but transparent to everyone that actually wants to engage in that. And that's actually extreme people that all have courses, and every month you're trying to figure out how many of their courses sold or how many of their courses were returned, et cetera. And then you have to go to accounting and have it pay that out and all that. We have technologies, and that's what the blockchain can do amongst many things, that now ease that process so there could be more time spent on things that are much more valuable. So for Secret Energy, it's not just let's open up an NFT marketplace and we're going to be open sea. I mean, come on, it's an open sea. So we're saying specifically with our demographic, which is consciousness, you would still be better off as a conscious being listing your NFT with us if it is in that vein of energy than open sea, because in open sea, it's probably not even going to receive, like many things related to metaphysical growth and consciousness, the respect that it deserves. They'd rather put that money into a Bored Ape or some type of vampire. And, that's just how it's rolling right now. But setting a trend for how the future should be is really what we're about. Also, I wanted to close here before we answer a few questions. I wanted to close here by speaking on our VR Metaverse. I personally purchased the first DK1 unit by Palmer Luckey, who is now working with the military. But the first DK1 unit from Palmer Luckey about virtual, something that was going to allow you to enter into this virtual reality. And as a person who has been fond of also games in the past when I was younger, we've been waiting on something like virtual reality. And unfortunately, virtual reality showed us all that it is still caught up in a curve of what translates well into virtual reality, the overall comfortability of being in virtual reality, and then also the technical or computing power that is needed to actually power an environment, and also the cost of that type of unit. And so there's all of these barriers in VR, if you may. And that's why we're like 9 years later, and now they're just trying to flip in AR rather than really exploring what really works well in VR. But it just so happens that we launched an endeavor because Secret Energy is not just a social network. As I said, that we're an ecosystem. And I'm going to show you this endeavor that we've launched and give you my lifelong friend, Lemuel, also known as Life. And many of the things that he's doing over there with also the mentorship of Secret Energy and what we call our strong tech arm, and making sure that our youth are not left behind in a revolution that is coming, that is probably going to place so many jobs in virtual reality. If you didn't know how to operate in that space, then it may be just another thing, like even when the computers launched. And I want to make everybody aware of this because we do have a very conscious community here. And some may say, well, I mean, what do you mean virtual reality? We're like going back to nature. And I just wanted to make it very clear for everyone here that you may be going back to nature, but there's probably a large chunk of reality, including our children, that may not be able to do that and may need a bridge in a way to actually even be aware that that's what they wanted to do, because after all, that's exactly probably how the information came to you. So we're planning on staying in this, and we're planning on making sure that we're there to meet them in our own special way and actually show them what that bridge is into wholesome levels of engagement with themselves and those that are around them. But we also know what's coming up the pipeline, and if you didn't notice, what's coming up the pipeline has people in the house a bit more. It's actually happening right now. So many corporations are already investing and scrambling to see how they can bring their wares into virtual reality. And as I said, some things translate over really well, some things don't. But in this respect, what we're talking about is we're talking about chess and community, or more specifically, we're talking about STEM kids. And so what STEM Kids is after about 2 years ago now, it's been 2 years since we've been operating STEM Kids, which again, Chess and Community has been operating for 18 years. STEM Kids has come in during the last 2 years. And STEM Kids is grown on the idea that we started seeing publications. We started seeing publications from corporations. Myself in here. We started seeing publications from corporations about how they were going to be moving into this VR space, and also how many of these new technologies, especially when you would see the commercials and things like that, didn't seem to be including our people. And so what was happening is we started wondering if maybe we were just written out of the future, that they'd never perceived that we were also smart too. So what I did is I did some research, and I found out that DJI had a exclusive package, which was extremely polished, of a curriculum around robotics and STEM, understanding science and technology and engineering. and mathematics, like being able to really, really go in. And it was just so turnkey. We had to get on the phone with DJI. I called Life, obviously, and said, hey, I think we should get on the phone with DJI and see, if we can come up with some type of partnership. And DJI was just basically like, maybe we'll give you a little discount. But, partnership, everything here is what it is. If you buy it, you buy it. And so we decided that we were going to invest in it. And I'm going to show you just a quick video. It's 3 minutes, so you know how long it is, about what became of that. And this is actually almost a year ago. So you can imagine what it is now, because just the other day there were 400 children meeting. There was a VR segment that we were putting in. But I just want to let you see that we're already active in the space.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to Quantum Accelerator, where our job is to accelerate the minds of our youth. We partnered with NSB, National Societies of Black Engineers, Spirit Tech, and Chesson Community all came together to give you all the Quantum Accelerator. Kids are going to be learning how to code robots, build robots for our big competition that we're having. We're also teaching our kids a little bit about VR, virtual reality, AR, augmented reality. Just get our youth prepared for the future that is now.
What got me interested in joining Quantum Accelerator, it was just my love for building, like taking things apart and putting them back together. Also that my grandfather is an engineer, and I felt like this is my chance. This is my time to show it.
So each one of y'all is going to have robots, and these robots are going to pretty much go ahead and build and do different unique things. And you are going to be responsible for coding the robot, for developing the robot, for getting things in place.
I have like learned to be a leader, like be that person. Like if somebody's shy, then I gotta be shy no more, because I'm there and I can like talk to them, be friends with them. So I feel like it's really like help me be a better person.
Develop that community teamwork that you need, that bond that you need to get these things together. Learn as much as you can. You have your coaches, NSB, they're here to work with you. They're going to be working on the side of you. And it's about you all having a good time, having fun.
So my name is Anais Healy. I'm a third year here at the University of Georgia, majoring in computer systems engineering. So that kind of combines computer science, a lot of coding, and also robotics. So basically what we're doing here with the kids is kind of literally my major, so I'm definitely passionate about that.
So we are in week 3. So by today, each group should be completing your robots, and then you're gonna begin the coding.
For me, it's been the kids, like really like seeing like how they've developed from like week 1 and like just the team aspect of things. It's giving me a chance for one to like just see like where the community is at and like how the interest that they're taking in the robots themselves. We don't have to do much of the work, but how that has propagated through each week has really brought me like a little bit of joy, but more so like, okay, this is where our future is heading. Like this is the future. So yeah.
Programming is essential. We need more programming to expose kids to things that they may not otherwise be exposed to. Programming and a lot of the things that were going on. So I just found it was a tremendous opportunity.
So it is our job to be part of the solution and help prepare our youth. So check us out with Quantum Accelerator. We're going to continue to accelerate the mind of our youth so they can grow to be healthy and functional kings and queens. Let's go.
Follow your dreams. If you believe you can do it, you can do it.
So when Chesson Community deployed STEM Kids, it was massive because it was literally on the ground and operational within a few months. And it's been making a massive impact. And many other institutions are looking at it like, oh my goodness, how are they able to bring this level of engagement and experience right away? And it's not been right away. With this organization specifically, as I said, Chesson Community, it's actually been 20 years. But in that process, they have been looking for more support and more adoption. So when we look at the vista of VR and the metaverse in conjunction with being mindful, what we actually see is that children have this opportunity to be able to go into this space and do what the program was already created to do, which is begin to debate, and also learn to play chess and play chess, but also do that in the metaverse and do that globally. So our actual plans are to begin to interoperate with other countries and actually adapt a language to caption tool inside of our metaverse that allows the children that are speaking in one language to be read by another child that is actually fluent in another language, and for them to go in and not only begin to debate so they can understand how to handle themselves, but also they can also play chess, which we have some of the best chess players in the US right now, and we can groom these children in a proper way so that they can understand exactly how things operate. And then we can also teach them in this environment cryptocurrency and things in a fun way that actually adapts to children. One of the biggest things is for us is gamifying it. Since we already have that experience, we begin to already conceive play to earn and play to learn technologies, or P2E, P2L technologies that are actually going to be embedded into the space. And then each child will have their own wallet respectively. And what they earn in the space, a part of it is staked and actually becomes a part of the investments for their future. And another part of that will actually be able to be spent on what they call drip. And then they will be able to actually wear that drip in virtual reality or in the metaverse, and also in physicality because it will be IRL or in real life. And we feel like that this is a huge driver for children because it doesn't put up all of these walls, or it breaks down all of these walls that have been put up, especially right now with many of them being at home. So I want to finalize here by mentioning once again that Secret Energy as a platform also educates. It has created systems from the ground up. One of them is Eneology. This is what we call Metaphysical Metrics. Metaphysical metrics allow you to go in, put some simple information, and then all of a sudden learn more about yourself. We have been really digging deep into systems, even from ancient times, to see was anybody else trying to figure out who they really were? And the answer is yes. Also, to realize to even implement a system like this and to gamify a system that has metaphysical metrics is huge. It actually is something that we worked on for 2 years that consists of over 600 actionables. So in conclusion, as you can see, Secret Energy is coming into the space not with just speculation, but it's actually coming into the space with real visions and a layer 2 solution for something that has already began in an ecosystem that has honorably and ethically handled itself in this arena. So at this stage, what I wanted to do, because I think anybody who's seen my channel knows that I can really go in for 3 hours, is as an AMA says, it says that we want to answer a few questions. You also have to imagine an AMA is very similar to, that says, ask me anything. It's always something that generally happens when something is about to be launched. So I will answer the questions that I actually can, and then questions that I can't, I will indicate so. Also, just so you understand, we have some thick white paper. The reason why we chose not to release the white paper today is because of a few things, mainly in relation to our tokenomics. Because a big final point here is, I guess some may ask, you know, how do you keep it from dumping? And that would actually get me into some financial terminology, and I need to personally research all the legalities around that framework. But you can also trust that Secret Energy, as we come into things, just like we did with our affiliation, we see where there's lots of greediness, we see where there's bad tokenomics, we see where there's no community and no community adoption, we see where there is a huge roadmap of only 10% being complete. And so when we come into the space, we actually are coming in without having any of those drawbacks. And so we've started seeing what are the things that will insulate us and insulate our economy, since our goal is not necessarily to get everybody on the blockchain involved in Secret Energy, although that may happen, but actually to service our community with the tools that they're going to need next in order to be prepared for how things are going to continue to roll out in the current reality that we're in. So if you do have a question, what you can do is you can type question inside of the chat box, and especially this should roll smooth since there's not a lot of us here on this today, but you can type question inside of the chat box and then type your question, and I'll actually go to it. And I'll start with Marcy K. Santiago has a question here. First of all, Wholeness, thank you for tuning into the AMA. And it's why choose ETH over Solana? And to be direct, we actually haven't chose ETH or Solana yet. Even also in relation to our own NFT, which we do have coming out. It's already themed. It actually is a very intrinsic story. It involves metaphysics. There'll be more explanations on that later. But we haven't chose what platform that we're going to build on. In fact, we're more thinking of building our own network or our own layer 1 solution, especially in relation to ohms. The next question here is, this is from Music Review, how does human design play a role in this revolution? The systems such as human design, which I do also like personally, and even enealogy, of course, which I'm a big fan of, give us the metaphysical metrics that allow us to understand more about ourselves. Human design also specifically about how to cooperate, like how to co-create, like what people go together. When you want to accomplish something, there's the mouth and there's the feet, like who's going to serve their respective role in order for us all to get somewhere. So I like human design in the respect to that it highlights ways in which we should be more mindful about these things. So that's how I believe human design actually fits into this revolution. And this revolution specifically that we're talking about is the entry into ether, the awareness that we have an ethereal body, and there's lots of ramifications to that, but knowing more about yourself is going to put you into a better position. So there is a need to expunge that data and expunge that knowledge, bring it future forward, which we call it, because a lot of this stuff is even on scrolls. So bring it into adoptions of how we would actually be using things today, SMS notifications on the phone or push notifications on the phone, etc., incentivizations, groups, teams, communities, reputation, the things that actually drive one to go through the process. So the next question here is, are you satisfied with the results of WealthyBot thus far? I think that what we would have to look at and back up for a moment is saying, are we satisfied really with the results of the markets so far? Because there's a part of our education that is always coming into play, and that's how much are we educated about the things that we've used? Have we taken the time to educate ourselves? And a big part of the trading aspects of things, even the automated trading, is understanding the markets and understanding the percentages of calculating floors and all the things that are necessary for you to still be able to do it in a much more simpler way, but also not to be able to completely leave it on autopilot in the event that there's some type of change. Now, what are the additions? What additions can be made even for a system that is as robust as WealthyBot is now? And in my opinion, and this is something that we actually have in the pipeline, is creating algorithms that actually understand the sentiments of the market, that are actually able to respond to signals, as it's called, and actually even be able to detect the behavior within the entire system in itself and all the users in the system in order to recommend solutions. We did find out there was even some legal framework around that, so we're kind of dancing around it. But this is how I think that things can be improved is to use the view of all the data that is on chain. There's systems such as Nansen, if you wanted to check it out yourself, but they supply through an API integration all of the on-chain data that would be, I feel, necessary to make really fast moves, especially in a market that there's things that could be very beneficial, and then there's things that could just put a lot of time into when you're actually able to receive profits. Our ultimate goal is, however, is to continuously see this market grow. And that's also why we're entering into it, because we actually believe in it, not just from investing on our own things, not also just creating our own things, but also being able to allow adoption to the entire space and just the potential of what it can do. Someone is asking about the actual structure of Secret Energy, and they're just asking specifically, is Secret Energy public by default? And the answer to that very clearly is no. And I actually won't get into more of those details because that does actually involve more legal explanation. But to actually understand that Spirit Text is always our operating arm, and that is how we are. Secret Energy is actually really a love project of Spirit Text to continuously continue the mission in every shape or form. I'm going to take now about 3 more minutes to finalize some questions. So I'm going to go here and rapid fire. Again, I wanted to make sure we held true to getting everyone forward in an hour. Actually, we'll probably spend about 5 minutes over because we did have that 5 minutes on the front end. So I will extend that now. This question is, are you going to go to Binance or will you start your own exchange? This is a very good question. What you find is, and I believe that was also connected to, I guess the name is isergic acid. But you guys got some real names on here. It's like, it's like a substitute teacher had to come in and read the names of the different kids, right? So it's like, okay, so here it is. So again, I think it's more even related in building into that because I sense that the people who are asking these questions understand more about the structures of a blockchain project and kind of what separates a DAO from something that is centralized. And these are things that we're diving deep into right now that we've had to get a complete understanding on, and then also lean on our legal advice, especially when it comes to even governance, like what kind of controls do we want to give up? These kind of things are stuff that's being actually investigated by real professionals. And that's what's important for us all to understand is there's things that we do well. Like I believe that personally, if you look at something like Cardano, maybe Hodgkins does a very good job at representing Cardano, but is he the lead developer? Is he the one putting in all the programs? Most likely not. So there are other people in the faction that also have their specialty and they're doing their thing. And it's just important to know that we have people that are actually on that. So to answer your question, actually going to the question here, I see there was quite a few questions that came in here. So just to answer the question just directly, Secret Energy is still personally deciding how it's going to structure itself and how that can be utilized by other exchanges. Because as you know, exchanges can actually just buy your token themselves, list your exchange themselves, especially when it's a decentralized operation. So those are things that need to be decided on a little bit further into the future. Or what I would say revealed a little bit further in the future. So there's a question here, which cryptos are the best to invest in? And obviously that would be investment advice, so I'll kind of refrain from doing any investment advice. I would always just say, what is the functionality? What is the use? Do your research, believe in the project, and, look at the charts, like really see what's going on, how much is locked up, supply, tokenomics or token metrics. Do your own due diligence at seeing what projects are out there and what their value could be and if they're able to deliver that value. Someone's asking, will we add social options and trading programs so we could add liquidity? The answer to that directly is yes. Obviously, the big part of staking is a big part of how this technology has to work. And so we are considering what those models will look like. And also remember that in this space, this is something that I want to make sure that's clear with everyone that's here, is that sometimes when you look at all this stuff, you may look at it as how traditional things function in the regular world where most stuff is not open source. And what that means is that generally you need your own team to go in and dig all the way in it and figure it all out. But in cryptocurrency, as you know, everything is Git. So this means that these codes are literally copied and paste. That is the whole essence of the field that we're in. So what it's really about is finding governance models and actually finding staking models which our engineers are responsible for doing, that actually work really well with our tokenomics and our economy. So it's not like, you got to go and dev this all out. That's actually, from what we've been instructed, is the least part of all this. The biggest part of this is actually getting the community to understand the value within this protocol and why we would want to treat it a certain way in order for it to really deliver and render to us what it can do for us. And over diluting it in any kind of way, rather producing too many tokens or getting too many of the wrong people involved, could hurt that. So instead of rushing into something like this, because we could code a contract tomorrow, like it only takes a few minutes to do so. NFTs are in many respects contracts. We could have that all kind of up and running right away. But our goal is actually to come into this space the same way that we've actually come into even the social media space, with integrity. It's just that you're now hearing about also this project because we're that far enough along to say, okay, we need to start getting to that next phase where we're notifying, especially those that are looking at this project now and looking at, again, spending time and energy with it, of what's going on. And so also remember that inside the description of this presentation, there is a link to whitelist that does give us the proper information to send to you any forward movements on developments with this project. Also, there is a Telegram group, and you will find that link inside of the associated material. So final questions here. What's the staking in the APY? I think I did answer that question earlier about how those numbers really need to be tweaked. And that's why we didn't release white paper today, because really those numbers are what makes or breaks this token. Our value here is our tribe. And so our responsibility is our tribe. We believe that our predominant investors will be our tribe. And so since we already have a brand, since we already have a reputation that's virtually impeccable at this stage, we wouldn't want to ruin that by doing some bad math. So we're looking really deep into it. And when we come forward, it will be in the highest levels of integrity. The last question is about some replacement glass on Hydrolux. Just contact us and support. We can see what we can do for you. And yeah, okay, so that looks like the bulk of the questions, because it looks like bigger questions are around staking. And I'm glad for that, because, it's less of the questions about when moon, just two words, like when is it going to the moon? Staking is the biggest thing in all this, because it does mean that we're rewarding those that are actually saying that they perceive the value is going to continue to increase, and they want to earn for having that value there to create more liquidity for us, especially in a decentralized network. So I wanted to say to everyone, Wholeness and Balanced Vibrations, thank you so much for taking the time and opportunity to look at the Secret Energy cryptocurrency and token AMA, and also even showing interest within this product. Expect more to come from us, because as I said, we're ramping up pretty fast. We're hoping to release the white paper very soon. And as I said, you will get a play-by-play from us inside a Telegram. All right, speak with you soon. Enjoy your day. Love those who are around you. Make sure that you're actually aware that this is the first. So if you launched off in January and you was like, oh my goodness, this is looking a little like last year, I had so much big plans for what I was going to do. Remember that actually today is the first. You may also notice that you're a bit more further along if you've kept to it, but also realize that the beings that you're around are actually in your resonance field for a reason. So look at yourself. So if you admire at all what I'm doing, or I've mentored you in any kind of way, just remember that's because we are actually in that same nucleus. Wholeness. Keep yourself true to yourself. Wholeness.